Hi folks, welcome back to the Auto Connection. I'm Chris Coraggio. Joining us today from the Auto Detectives is founder Mark Allen. Mark, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Okay, you're the man to talk to when it comes to not getting taken advantage of when we buy a car.
Well, I'm probably one of the men anyway.
You're the auto detective.
I'm the auto detective.
How does it work? Tell me how you can decipher whether we're getting a lemon or not.
Well, speaking of lemons, let me tell you about my friend here I brought with me. This is my friend Lemmy. Lemmy is cute. He's cuddly.
I like him.
But you don't want to buy one.
No.
This would be a really sick car.
You?
Our slogan is, we protect you from buying one of these.
Got it. Okay, so how do you do it?
Don't want to buy Lemmy.
Okay, so the process is we're looking for a car, right? I make a phone call, I see an ad, right? I'm going about it the right way?
Yes.
Okay. And then what? So I call, I find out, I go, I check out the car, I drive it, I walk around it. Am I doing all the right things?
You're definitely on the right track, yes.
Oh, so tell me,
yes.
How does it work?
Right track. Well, I kind of like calling a guy like me to inspect the car is kind of at the end of the process.
Got it. Okay.
Really, the beginning of the process is looking for a car.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when we go, we narrow it down, we go drive it around, we walk around, we figure this is the one. If it passes inspection, like you said, we call someone like you. What do you do?
Before you call me, these are some good tips that you want to do. The first thing is the phone call.
Yep.
Okay, when you call somebody on the phone and you ask them about the car, you want to ask them some very specific questions. This will tell you right away if it's worth your time even going out to look at it. Some of the questions you want to ask is, how long have you owned the car? You want to buy a car from somebody who's owned it for a while, because if they've owned it for a while, they're likely to have service records.
Got it.
And you want to buy a car that somebody's taken care of. So if they've owned it for 6 months, a year, a couple years, that's better, because then you can find out some history about the car.
Got it.
Number two, you want to ask them if it's titled in their name. If they've bought the car for themselves and it's just a legitimate, I bought the car, decided I'm going to do something else, I'm going to get rid of this car and get another one, it should be titled in their name. If it's not, and they say, I'm selling it for my brother's, uncle's, sister's, cousin's aunt because his parakeet died, that's probably a guy who, once again, is some kind of dealer, he's flipping cars, and it could be suspect.
Okay.
Okay, so is it titled in your name? Is it got a salvage title? Are there any liens against it? Can I see it when I come and look at the car? You want to question them about the title, because you want to look at it, hold it in your hands, and make sure it's not salvage.
Got it.
And it's illegal for someone to sell a car with a salvage title without disclosing it. So you don't want to buy, if it's salvage, that means it's been in a wreck. And also liens. A lot of what people are doing now that I found, especially on Craigslist, is they're going and getting title loans. You know, every street corner you can get a title loan, right? You get a title loan on your car, and then you sell it, and then you don't have the car anymore. You sold the car, right? So you got the money for the car plus the loan money. The other person has the car now. It's their problem. When they go to license it, they can't, because there's a lien against it.
How do you get around that?
Well, you go to the MVD website, servicearizona.com. There's a little button you can click on that says check for liens. You get the VIN number, run it on the MVD State of Arizona website, and that'll tell you if there's any liens against the car, because they have to be registered.
That's a great tip.
That'll save you from getting taken in that situation.
Got it.
You want to ask them if they've got any service records. Obviously, a car with service records. A car that's been taken care of is the kind of car you want to buy. And then the last question that usually gets most people, if they're doing something shady, ask them, why are you selling the car? Most of them, if they go, if they hem and haw, they weren't ready for that question, because they've got ulterior motives, right? The correct answer would be, it's a two-seater and we're having children and I need a minivan, or I need a bigger car, or I've just had it for a long time, I'm ready for something new. Just a legitimate answer is all you're looking for, something that sounds real and honest.
That's a great tip. Not many people might think of that, but it's common sense, but ask that. Okay, so when they get all those questions answered to their liking, they picked out a car, now it needs to get inspected.
No.
What's next?
Getting ahead of yourself again.
I'm getting ahead of myself.
Most people still want to go see the car themselves.
Of course, yes.
So they go out and look at the car themselves first.
Yeah, walk around
make sure
it.
you like it. So
I kick the tires. Is that normal?
Well, you want to look at the tires. Kicking them doesn't tell you a lot.
Got it.
But some tips on the walk around. You want to make sure all the colors match. So is the door the same color as the fender? Because if it's not, it's probably just been in a wreck, been repainted, it's got something gone. So check. Just, you don't have to be a paint expert to see if the colors match. And if the doors and trunks and lids and the hood, if they open and close smoothly, they don't bind or stick up funny, there's no weird gap problems. Because if you find that kind of stuff, then the car's probably been in a wreck and you might not want to buy that car. So you want to check at that basic cosmetic looking stuff. You want to look at the tires. You don't have to kick them, but you want to look at them. It's a good idea to make sure that they all match, because usually if you've got an oddball tire, that could mean that there was some kind of an accident or collision repair, and they just put a new tire on the left front, say. And you want to check for, it's easy to look at a tire and see if it's all worn out on the inside edge. You can take a quick look and see if they're wearing funny. That can mean there's some serious suspension issues or mechanical issues. So that's easy for the layman to check. You want to take a look underneath, see if it's dripping oil, leaving puddles on the ground. If it's all wet with oil, then you've got other mechanical issues. You want to make sure everything works, try all the buttons and dials and turn the radio on and check the wipers. And I mean, if the window washers work, it usually passes my inspection. Got to make sure washers work.
Got it.
So you make sure everything works, and then just kind of look, then just get a feel of if it looks nice enough for you to buy. Then you want to drive it around the block, obviously. Start it up. Make sure it fires right up and it doesn't crank forever before it fires up, because that could mean you have a fuel pump issue. So you start it up, make sure it starts up, idles smoothly, doesn't vibrate. You want to kind of put your foot on the brake, put it in drive, and sit there and see if you get heavy vibration in the steering wheel. If you do, could be mean you've got worn out engine mounts, which is another mechanical issue. Make sure when you put it into gear, it doesn't go heavily clunk into gear and throw you back, because then you've got some other issues possibly in the drivetrain. So that's pretty easy to check. After starting it, checking the idle, make sure it's smooth. You want to drive it, take it around the block, make sure it runs good, it has good acceleration, shifts smoothly.
Brakes.
No, brakes good. Doesn't have any weird noises or heavy vibrations. And while you're going down the road, I mean, only be careful doing this, but you want to take your hand off the steering wheel just for a second. See if it turns right by itself. Make sure it doesn't pull heavily one way or another. As long as you can take it off and it still keeps going fairly straight, then there's probably no heavy frame damage type issues.
Another good tip. That's great. I wouldn't think about that.
So all of those things are probably good enough to get the average person to the point where they can say, hey, this is a pretty good car. But unless they're car experts, that's when they want to call the inspector.
Got it. Now we call you.
Now you can.
God, I've been waiting, Mark. I've been waiting. Okay, so we call you. You're an expert. What do you do? Okay, so how do you inspect the car?
You go to somebody like me, an individual who does all the inspections himself. You go on my website, you can see my CVs, my curriculum vitae, which is a fancy word for resume. I'm a legal expert in court cases, so it's what the judges and the lawyers can go up there to qualify me for my expertise in different areas, and the general public can see all of my experience, all my training, all my credentials, my bio, all my references. They can totally check me out, so they know that I'm a true expert, and they know what they're hiring and what they're getting.
Okay.
So that's what you can't get from a national company, is that. Number two, you don't get to talk to the guy who looked at the car. They're going to call me. I'm going to discuss the situation with them. They can ask me to check specifics. They can say, hey, I'm worried about this, and this, because everybody does their homework on the internet nowadays.
Yep.
So they got some questions about the car. They can have me check certain things for them, so they can ask for specifics. And when I'm done, I'm going to give them a verbal report. As soon as I'm done with the car, I'm going to get my cell phone out and call them. So we can talk about the car. Hey, what'd you find out? Well, this is what I found out. And they can ask me questions, and they can really get a good feeling for this car and the guy who just looked at it. Where with a national company, you don't get a verbal report. All you get is a piece of paper with a checklist.
Got it.
And
it's more personal touch.
Yeah, personal touch, but way more information.
Got it. Okay, quickly. What is that?
Oh, this is another thing you get with a guy like me. And I'm not saying the other guys don't have these, but I'm saying this is important. This is a paint meter. This is what you check to see if the car's been repainted or wrecked. And all it does is just measure the thickness of the paint. So paint comes from the factory 3 to 6 mils thick, and if you stick it on the left rear quarter panel and it's 18 mils thick, probably a good chance that there's some paint and Bondo in that quarter panel, so probably been in a wreck. So this will help tell you if it's been painted or wrecked.
Just part of your process.
Part of my process.
What
yes.
is your website?
Website is auto-detectives.com. There's a hyphen between auto and detectives.
And is there a good phone number?
Yes, 602-688-7042.
Okay, I learned a lot, Mark. I'm coming to you when I have to buy my next car.
Thank you.
But you got to wear a Mets hat.
And well, that's a sore subject.
Oh, don't get me started.
And I'll be glad to give you my senior discount, too.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time here on the Auto Connection.